Today we're going to talk about some of my favourite dinosaur activities to do with preschoolers. First up, please like and subscribe down below. I'm Rachel, I'm from the Preschool Development Centre and we're going to get into it now. So first up, we're going to do dinosaur shadow drawing. So I love to do this with dinosaurs because, it's near the start of the year. We're in week 9, I think now. But as we do animals throughout the year, I always bring this activity out because it's always really fun. So I'm going to show you how to do it indoors, obviously, but it is much more fun if you can bring them outside and do this in the sunshine. So here we have our tray, our paper, we would have a pencil and a dinosaur, and we would very easily just use a torch to shine. I thought that my light would make a shadow, but it doesn't really, it kind of does. And we will draw the outline of the dinosaur on the paper. It is super easy, really easy to set up, and you can just leave it on the shelf and the children can do it whenever they please. Because that's what we need to keep in mind. We need to do really meaningful, positive, purposeful activities that don't take up all of our time to prepare. So we shouldn't be doing things for the children. It should have minimal setup, minimal resources wherever possible, but be really fun, and the children should really enjoy it and look forward to coming into your classroom to do it every day. Okay, so next up we're going to do some archaeology. There are a few ways we can do this and I'm going to go through them with you depending on your resources. So I have just made up some little dinosaur pieces out of salto. So I used about a half a cup of flour and about a third of a cup of salt and just water, and then you're going to bake it on about 100 for 2 or 3 hours until it's firm. So some of these pieces are normally lucky enough to make it through the school year and you can stick them in your box to use next year, but normally they do get broken. But we don't mind. They take a little bit of time to make, but they do last the whole week and possibly beyond depending on how you use them. So first up, if you're using them in the classroom, I would get a rectangular box, a see-through box, put the pieces in and cover them with sand or potting soil. I would then place that on a tray with some mini archaeology tools. So I would just have maybe a lollipop stick, I would have a small paintbrush, I would have a magnifying glass on the tray. And then we encourage the children to be very gentle and brush off the sand or the earth and discover the bones, and then they will lay them out. If you wanted to make this a bit harder, or if you had older preschoolers, or even if you're in kindergarten or junior infants, you could get the children to then classify the bones. If you wanted to go through the effort of making a full skeleton with the salto, you absolutely can. There are so many tutorials to do it online. It takes a little bit of effort and you don't really want to do it with the smaller children because your effort is going to be for nothing really. You want something that they can hold and that they can really use well. Dainty full skeletons don't really fall into that category usually. An amazing way to use these dinosaur bones is if you have a garden, or if you have a muddy area, or even if you have a sand area. You make lots of them, get the children to make them, and then we would bury them and do a big group activity archaeology session where we would then dig up the bones, we would lay them out, we would try to identify them. As you can see, you can do this obviously with lots of other animals, but it's dinosaur week, so we're focusing on that. It is such a fun activity. They really enjoy it. And again, if you have slightly older children, you can go really far with this. Another way we can use our dinosaur bones is to get really into a big sensory box. So we want, sensory box as big as we can manage in our classroom, or even outside if you can't manage it in the classroom, if it's going to get a bit much. We will, it's not going to be too deep, it's going to be a foot maximum deep, and you are going to get the children to build a volcano in it. So in the corner, they're going to place a bottle. You're going to cut the top off and put sellotape around it to secure it. And then using clay or salto, and you want to make a really firm salto for this, because you need it to air dry, so you don't want it to be too moist and take too long, and also the children are going to paint it. So, we really want to do this at the start of the week and then have them be able to use it a couple more times. So we're going to build the salt clay up around the bottle until we make a volcano shape, and then we are going to add in, bicarbonate with red or yellow dyed vinegar and make volcano explosions. And if you're going to get really fancy, we're going to lay soil all around that volcano. We're going to add in our small world trees and plants, and we're going to bury our bones in here, and then we can use it both as our archaeological dig and our volcano site. You can also add in all of your play dinosaurs here as well, obviously. So get the children to paint it when it's dry, and they can do this again and again, and it's really well contained. So you don't want to add in too much of the moisture from the baking powder and vinegar. The top part that you've cut off the bottle to make the base, we're going to tighten the lid, turn it upside down and sellotape it in it, so we don't have to put as much in it to make it explode out. We only have to put a couple of tablespoons of each in, and it's going to be really, really dramatic. It is the most fun lesson. I mean, you know, I use baking powder and vinegar all the time, as often as I can, because it's just so fun. And it's the way of incorporating lots of different sciences into these lessons. And it's just, you know, one of the best sensory boxes of the year. So sensory and science are big themes this week. You know, we do a lot of it because we can, and it's really fun. And it's November now, so the children are really well settled and, you know, we can really just go for it. So our next lesson is going to be ice eggs. So we can talk about how the dinosaurs became extinct, and we can talk about that, or we can just talk about the fact that they hatch from eggs usually. So I have a tray, and in a bowl I have a poor little dinosaur trapped in a ball of ice. I have a little pot of salt. I should have a paintbrush, but I don't. I just have sticks there. And they are going to chisel and brush the salt on. They are going to find out how they can rescue this baby dinosaur the fastest. So what makes ice melt? Salt makes ice melt, warm water makes ice melt, and friction makes ice melt. The children are going to do all those things together. They are going to possibly, if you can make lots of these, if you have the freezer space, you know, you can separate them into groups and give them all a different activity to melt. And you can see who does it the fastest. So what melts ice more efficiently? The actual ball is really easy to make. I just used a Ziploc bag, put the dinosaur in, covered it in water, and then I twisted the top and just stuck it in the freezer. So it's not a perfect egg. I mean, if you were really finicky, you could absolutely make a perfect egg, but I mean, if the kids aren't going to care about it, I try my very hardest not to care about it. So there we have it, my favourite dinosaur activities for your classroom. I really hope you like them. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Comment below if you have any other dinosaur activities that are your favourite, because I love to grow my file. I would love to hear what you guys do and what you really enjoy doing. I like to keep my activities as child-based as possible. I like to do as little as I can apart from prep. So there are a lot of lessons out there, you know, where the teacher does lots of cutting of paper plates to make beautiful dinosaurs, but I think that for preschool children who are able to do these things themselves, they should do them themselves. Obviously for toddlers and babies it's a different story, but that's a completely different channel. So I really hope you enjoyed them. Please hit subscribe, and I will see you again next week. We are going to be talking about Europe. Bye!